You saw Rick coming into the building?
Yeah,
All right, we'll wait till he gets set up.
yeah.
Oh, I thought it was muted. I'm sorry.
Are you sharpening pencils?
No, I'm shredding.
Oh,
I thought I turned it on mute.
on the other side of the shop. The camera's aimed this way.
You are live.
We are live?
It's 10 o'clock.
Where would you like me to leave?
On this side of Jeff, so the camera can see us. There's Jeff.
Okay.
Hello.
Text Bishop.
Hello.
Morning, Jeff.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Jeff.
How's everybody?
It looks like you got a haircut.
Finally, yeah.
My wife is refusing to give me one after the first one.
Mine did the same thing. She didn't like it doing it, so I had to go in and get it done.
Okay, I think we're set to start this regular meeting of the Leelanau County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Roll call. Dennis Boucher is here. Rick Foster.
Present.
John Aarons, absent. T.
Here.
Taxidius. Chet Janik.
Here.
And Patricia Sotis Little is absent. We do have a quorum. Chet, would you like to stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance since you have a flag with you?
I do have a flag behind me. It's interesting when you do this on Zoom because you hear people all different levels. So, everybody? I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So now we're on consideration of the agenda. Does anyone have anything else to add or delete from the agenda?
I move acceptance of the agenda as presented. Or do you need a motion?
Yeah, yes, we're looking for a motion.
Okay.
I'll support that.
And okay, we have a motion from T and a second from Dennis. I'm going to do a roll call vote for all the voting today, just because we're all in different formats. Dennis.
Yay.
T.
Yes.
Chet.
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
Egan, yes. So that passes. Anyone have any conflict of interest concerns on any agenda items today? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to consideration of the May minutes. That was the last time we met, May 19th minutes.
I move
We accept the minute.
approval of the minutes of May 19 meeting as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Dennis, did you want a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay,
I couldn't-
since it was a tie on making the motion.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't hear it.
No, that's okay.
Oh,
T.
that's-
fine.
That's fine. So we'll do another roll call. Rick,
Yes.
Chet,
Yes.
T,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
and Egan, yes. So that passes. Any public comment? Hearing none, we move on to director comments. Trudy.
That's what happened.
A couple of quick things for you. Several months ago, I put in a presentation proposal to the Michigan Association of Planning Conference, and Sabina Martin joined in on that, as well as Jeff Hawkins. If you don't know Sabina, she used to work for a technical assistance Brownfields. She has her own business now, and we're going to be talking about rural development, blighted properties, and how those can be turned around to improve communities. So it's going to be an online session The conference is 3 days, and I don't know what day we are presenting yet or what time, but I'll pass that information on to you as we get it. The EPA grant application, yesterday the guidelines for the grants came out, and so I sent those to each of you in an email so that you are aware of what we're going to try to apply for, which is the assessment grant. And you can see there's a lot of steps. There's a lot that is required in one of these applications, and the due date is in October, so there's a lot to be done on that before we can submit it. And then finally,
Excuse me, Trudy.
yep.
Patricia's trying to log in. Does Laurel have to let her in, or?
I'll go let her. I may have to get Laurel.
Okay, good. Why don't you continue? I'll get Laurel.
Okay. Thought I could unlock it, but I don't know if she did it. Okay, and then the last item is just a little update for you. There is a house that is being constructed on the former government site in Leland. The first house that's being constructed there since the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority sold that property to Courthouse Redevelopment Group. It's being constructed on the lot that's directly south of where the historic jail is at. I stopped by several weeks ago and took some pictures of it, and then I had some questions about what was going on with the soils. We did receive a phone call from the property owner saying they wanted to dispose of the soils according to the agreement that we have with the property owners, which allows them to take those soils to the county property up on Pitt Road where the tower is at. So that is an agreement that we put in place before we sold the property to make sure that the soils either went to a landfill or went to that site so that we could control that. We didn't want soils from a brownfield
There she
site
is. She's on.
being taken and disposed of somewhere where we weren't aware of, just in case there were any problems with them. So everything is moving along fine. They've put their soils up there and they have the basement under construction.
Rudy, is the property, the county property that where you would allow them to put the soils contiguous or close to this particular property?
No, it's in the same township. It's in Leland Township, but it's down off Schaumburg Road. And then there's a road called Pitt Road. It's on property that the county owns and it's gated. So the soils prior to disposal and prior to selling the property, the county had established the location of where these soils could go and worked with the Soil Conservation District and our Buildings and Grounds Department to identify that area, and then also worked with corporate counsel to put together an agreement for depositing the soils there. And of course, we worked with our consultant, Jeff Hawkins, on it as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Trudy on her report?
If, Kathy, can I add to that?
Yes.
Just to add to that, and maybe for T's edification on that, the soils, once we finished our remedial action and so forth on that property and the incremental soil methodology that we used for sampling and so forth, we were able to determine certain areas that were impacted still and certain areas that weren't. The impacted areas were remediated. And so basically what was left with is a piece of property there at the government center that were technically not contaminated anymore. But I think to be cautious and careful, you can't sample every molecule, as you well know. And to avoid any legacy concerns related to this, we found a piece of property that could receive this clean, theoretically clean fill from a brownfield site to be basically staged and used on county-owned land that's not going to get transferred because it's a cell tower site.
Thanks, Jeff. You kind of read my mind.
I thought so.
All right, I have two questions, Trudy, on your report. For the MAP conference presentation, are you going to do that live? Do you know that for sure, or is it going to be pre-taped? And this-
They actually are offering both alternatives, so we don't know which one we are doing yet.
Okay, I was just curious because of, that's the way conferences seem to be going, and I'm just educating myself on that. The other question I have is on the EPA grant application. The last time we met in May, it was going to be proposed to the township, not to the county board, and ask them if they are supportive of a grant application to the EPA. Did you hear back from the county board on that?
Yes, I took that to the county board and they were supportive of us applying again.
Okay, all right, just wanted to check on that.
And we will have to take it through the county board to actually submit it.
Right, but we didn't want to do the work first to find out that they weren't interested in going for an EPA grant.
Correct, and they are interested.
Okay, great. Any other comments on the director's report? We can move on to the consent agenda. There was one report in the consent agenda. And if there's no concerns with that, we can have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion, so moved.
Second.
So moved by Chet, seconded by Rick. And I'm going to do a roll call vote again. Patricia,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Chet,
Yes,
T,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So consent agenda is adopted. We have no old business. We move on to new business. Item number 1, the Eagle modification of the loan that we have on the former government center courthouse property in Leland. And Trudy, you want to give a quick rundown on that process?
Sure, it was a couple months ago that I got an email from Eagle stating that, they were offering out to anyone who still had loans with Eagle on Brownfield sites to consider modification of those loan terms. And so then Kathy and I had a call with a couple representatives from Eagle to go over this. And basically, when we got off the phone, we decided to ask for as much as we possibly could to modify those terms. And so that resulted in a letter that was dated June 10th being sent to the state. We had 4 requests on there that we asked for. That's on page 10 of your packet. So we were asking for the interest to be reduced, to reduce the annual payment, and we wanted to bring the annual payment down to the amount or less than the amount of the tip that was being collected on that site. And then we asked that they forgive the interest that was due this year, and then extend the loan payment out additional years. So then you'll see on page 12 of your packet, the letter that we got back and what they changed with regard to the loan. So they reduced the interest from 2% down to 0.25%, which is the federal funds rate. They didn't make it 0%, but pretty darn close. They reduced our payment amount, including the interest, to $25,000 a year, which matches up with our request. And then they extended that payment period out an additional 5 years, which is also consistent with what we requested. So then if you go on to page 14, you will see what those changes result in terms of the loan. And our payments go down again to that $25,000 a year, which results in total payments coming up to $544,699.15. If you look at page 15 of the packet, that is the current amortization sheet that I included for you. And you'll see that our payments were right around $42,000 a year. And we would have paid a total of $881,166.09. So there's significant savings to the county to accept the new modified loan terms on here, and it will help us by reducing that payment down to what we can afford under the TIF that's coming in. Plus, it really reduces our interest.
It's good.
It was, it's a good deal. There's no penalty for early payment if we want to pay it off. As the TIF goes up, if we want to put this behind us, we can just pay more. There's no penalties on that at all. The DEQ, or I'm sorry, Eagle was, they put this offer out to everyone who has one of these loans, and they got very few takers, which was surprising. So they were happy to work with us, and we were more than happy to work with them. Anybody have any comments on this? Questions?
No, that's great. It saves about 300,000 or so.
Yeah, it's over $300,000 in savings.
340.
So we will need a vote to authorize me to sign this agreement with Eagle.
Yeah, so moved.
I'll second that if nobody else will.
We have a motion by Tia, second by Dennis. Any further comments? Discussion? All right, I'm gonna vote, take a roll call. Chet,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Patricia,
Yes.
T,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
and me, yes. So that passes. So we move on to item, new business item number 2, TIF tracking. And that, I'll turn over to Jeff Hawkins.
Sorry, got to get myself unmuted here. As far as the update is concerned, we are basically, we have submitted everything to Trudy with respect to the TIF tracking system. Everything's populated in it. And I think it looks like we need to do probably, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Trudy, but the one thing we haven't had an opportunity to do here is kind of like some training, so to speak.
Yes.
And so we can kind of walk through how it works. There are a couple tweaks, and basically the system basically is set so that we have it's a spreadsheet based system that tracks the eligible activities that were approved in the Brownfield plan, the initiation date of the Brownfield plan, the terms of the Brownfield plan, and it basically is a means by which we can track what the anticipated revenues should be coming from the taxing jurisdictions. And so the intent here basically is to send a statement of account and a notification template that we have developed to the various taxing jurisdictions so that A, they can verify the millages are correct for that particular year or the summer or winter taxes. B, they can verify that the value is correct in their books and our books. And it basically just says, it provides an opportunity for us to confirm with them what we should be receiving from them. And if there's anything that is not correct in their books versus our books, it gives us a chance to talk about it, so we're not having to backtrack later to fix it. And so it's basically going to be an ongoing system. The way we have designed it, typically these statements of account are sent out twice a year. And that's really what I think the next thing on the agenda is TIF reimbursement policy, but our TIF policy is to potentially disperse twice a year. So it kind of falls in line with winter and summer taxes. Obviously, the Brownfield plans, the 4 Brownfield plans that we have in place currently have been in place for quite a while. So we had to back populate into it information from the previous years. And there's still some tweaking that's going to need to be done with it, but it's essentially finished. And it's a system basically that can be implemented either by the county and with or without our assistance. So that's the way it's set up. So it's going to be a matter of how eventually the county's going to want to do that. So I guess what I would envision is that hopefully here in the very near future, because we're going to be coming up again here for another tax round, that we can schedule a time where I can maybe come up in person. It might be easier in person to work with Trudy to basically figure out how we're going to get this thing rolling. So we can move this thing forward and continue, because once we get through a couple cycles with it, it becomes a bit easier. The other thing it does too is, as you well know, sometimes millages change. And we want to make sure that those are tracked appropriately as well. Because we want to be capturing the taxes that should be captured, and make sure that the taxes that shouldn't be captured are not captured, because we've seen that happen on all 4 plans to some extent.
T.
Jeff, so the columns where you put the projected TIF captures by jurisdictions, then once you get verification from the taxing jurisdictions of the actual millages, you just plug those into the projected, that corrects whatever the projection was, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, essentially what we're doing is we're soliciting them to pay attention really to the numbers, so that we know that we're all had the same numbers. And if there needs to be a correction one way or the other, then we can make that correction.
Yeah, just logistically, I was trying to figure out how you were doing that. Okay.
And then what it does too is that once that information is entered, it automatically deducts from the eligible costs or the eligible reimbursements that as we pay them out, it reduces that amount that for reimbursement that's due to whoever, whether it's to the authority, whether it's due to the developer, and so forth. So we know when the end is. we can we know when we're done, and we can finish capturing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments and questions? This was not an easy spreadsheet to create. And I thank you, Jeff, and your team for putting this together, because this is critical and complicated, and it takes a lot of patience, knowledge, expertise, and Excel, wizardry to put this together.
Well, but the thing about it is we want to make sure we hopefully have designed it in a fashion, once we get through a couple cycles, that it's not too complicated for people to use. It's not, we want to make sure that it's a functional system, and I think it is. It kind of works logically, but there again, it takes a little time to get used to it. We've implemented this in other communities, and it's worked pretty well. Some we do the assistance. We actually send out the statements on their behalf, and then on some communities, they self-implement themselves.
But it also requires understanding of the act, so that people know what to capture from where, and what expenses to apply to the state versus the local capture, and also the environmental versus non-environmental. So it's pretty involved.
Absolutely, including the ratios we have to maintain with respect to school versus non-school taxes and so forth. Correct.
I see another department in your agency creating software systems.
Maybe for the next generation in my company.
You could really market this.
Well, we tried to work with BSNA software and a couple others, and we just haven't gotten any traction there. So
they're very protective of their stuff.
Oh yeah.
BSNA.
Well, there's no action needed on this, correct, Trudy?
That's correct.
Okay, we're just going to be implemented.
Yes, and at this point, we are taking the cost from Jeff's firm to do this work out of the general consulting services agreement we have, but in the future, you know, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as, is Jeff and his firm going to continue doing this for us? Or are we going to do, like he said, a combination, or are we as the Brownfield Authority going to do it ourselves?
And keep in mind that, excuse me, the costs associated with this, some of it, well, all of it's essentially are eligible administrative costs of the Brownfield Authority. And so as you're capturing tax increment from the 4 projects, you can distribute those costs across those projects, so to speak, to reimburse for those costs.
Yeah, that's a good thing to remember. Yes, so we can, in other words, we can do this right. And we have the system in place to make sure, to ensure that it's done right for all those involved.
That's the plan.
Yeah, that feels good. Thank you, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 3 under new business is a review of our TIF reimbursement policy, which is on page 16 of our packets. And we have brought this forward. We've reviewed this several times in the past because throughout the year, as soon as someone who has a brownfield plan pays their property taxes, they want to be reimbursed. And we have to remind them that we have a system in place and that just because they cut a check doesn't mean we turn around and cut a check the next month. Trudy, is there any more, what specifically in this are we going to be looking at today?
I think it's basically a review for you to see if there's anything that you feel needs to be updated in this policy or anything that we need to add that maybe we don't have in here yet. We did receive a request, as you know, from Courthouse Redevelopment Group for the money they put into the cleanup of the site in Leland. And per our last review of that, there wasn't enough money that was coming in to be able to do a reimbursement of that. So that one is still, you know, out there. And then I know G-Track, the Brownfield plan down in Elmwood Township, they also have funds that they were looking to get reimbursed for. I don't have an official document from them, but those are the 2 we're considering at sometime in the future.
All right, so does anyone have any comments on this policy?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes.
In the plans that are in place already, do you have situations where the captured TIF is not enough to pay the BRA's admin costs or to go to items B and C? Essentially, all you can do is cover your cover the loan repayments, but you are not able to capture for your administrative costs. Do you have that situation in any of the plans?
Yes.
You do.
Correct, Trudy. We've had that situation most often in the capture so far.
I believe that's true, but actually, if we could turn this back over to Jeff, because he's done that spreadsheet, and maybe Jeff, you could give us a little more detail on that, where we sit with each of these.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, you're not prepared to answer that the
Well,
number of questions today, but
well, I can. Hang on a second. Hang on, let me look real quick. Statements of accounts on, well, like for instance, the Courthouse Redevelopment Project or the former Government Center project, you know, we anticipated a phased approach to construction of residential houses on that property. And we had anticipated, let's see, it's 2020, and I wanted to say we anticipated our first house, couple houses back, I don't know, gosh, was it in 2018, 2019, something like that, Trudy?
Yes.
So we're behind in that regard, and generating, just enough to cover that. 2Ps, that's kind of a different one because we really never got any eligible expenses from the developer, but we did incur costs as an authority, and that's being reimbursed. And I want to say G-Track again is a little bit different because the anticipated development is just a different development than what was going to go in there initially. So to T's question, they're just not there yet. I mean, all of those projects, with the exception of, I want to say, with the exception of 2Ps, 2Ps did develop itself and finish their renovations of their building. West Shore is still unknown when that's going to happen, and the Leelanau development is still behind. So all of those plans essentially didn't really come to fruition like we anticipated, and they're behind with respect to being able to repay. Fortunately, on the West Shore project, we did have a grant and loan on that project from Eagle, and we were able to negotiate at the beginning to just use the grant only. And so we don't have a long-term loan on that, thank goodness. So that one is not going to be an issue.
The only reason I brought that up, I was asking, is whether you have considered taking the BRA's admin costs first off the top and then move on to repayment of loans. Some communities do that, but as long as this is how you decided to proceed, that's fine. It just got my attention.
I think the question, I think that the thing that came up, I guess, was that the Brownfield Authority and through the county had to pledge full faith and credit on the loans with Eagle. And so I think that the focus was that they felt there was a stronger obligation to having to repay that loan.
The DQ loan,
and they had some flexibility with respect to the admin. So I think that's why the priority was placed the way it was.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
I think it was the other way around first, wasn't it, Trudy? And we did adjust the policy to pay the loans first because of what Jeff just said. So we reorganized it.
Yeah, I believe so. I'd have to look back on a previous version, but I think that's the way we had it.
Okay.
Trudy, the only thing I'm noticing on it that might be an adjustment, which is a real simple one, is we just need to maybe update the reference to Michigan Department of Environmental Quality and change it now to Eagle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other comments, discussion points on this policy from any other members? I'm not seeing any. I'd like to just say that I'm comfortable with this. I like the way it's set up, and I'm comfortable with the 2 times a year that we consider TIF dispersal. I want to create that schedule and stay on that schedule. As we move forward with more and more brownfields, it's going to be, crucial that we have a system in place that we follow and that we're not different for each brownfield plan. Whenever a request comes in, we need to track it. And the way to track it is to have a system in place and a calendar set up in place.
And the twice a year also helps the developers.
Right, they know what to expect as well.
Cash flow, it's simple. Yeah.
Jeff, you have another comment?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is anytime that you tweak this development or the policy, TIF collection and dispersal state policy, we need to be conscious of the fact that we typically incorporate this into development and reimbursement agreements with the developer. And so we're going to want to make sure that they're in sync with each other as well, because we do reference them typically in those development agreements.
Sure.
Excellent point. We don't want any unintended consequences.
We don't want conflict.
Right, yes. Any more discussion, comments? Hearing none, we can move on and just make a note that next time we review our whole policy and procedure manual, that we will catch all the MDEQs and change those next time, Trudy?
Well, actually, I was just going to ask, do you want to accept this today with that change and we put a new date on this document?
We can do that too. That we can do that. That would take a motion to reaffirm the policy in TIF collection and dispersal with an amendment to change the MDEQ to M-Eagle.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Patricia, support by T. Roll call, we'll do Chet,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
T,
Yes.
Patricia,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
me, yes. Okay, that passes.
Until the next time, change their name.
Yes. So on our agenda, we move on to our financials, our claims and accounts, page 17 of the packet. Rick, do you want to take this or do you want? I can't see or hear. So the total claims and accounts are in $26,000, $26,655 even. Do we have a motion to pay our claims and accounts?
Make the motion, sure.
I'll second that.
Motion by T, second by Dennis. Any questions or comments? All right, Dennis,
Yes.
Patricia,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Chet,
Yes.
T,
Yes.
and I say yes. Okay, Trudy, there's no post audit
No,
and no budget amendments, transfers this month?
no, I just wanted to note, this morning I had received the printout from the accounting department on these 3 checks, and I emailed it out to you. You may not have seen it yet. And basically what we did was about a year ago or so, we started working with the accounting department to make sure all of these are tracked so that anytime we need to do a report or go back and look at what's been paid to consultants or on particular projects, we have it all in our system and it's all done in a consistent manner. Prior to them starting stuff, we did not have it in the accounting system that way. So that is the printout that you received in an email this morning.
Okay. All right. Trudy, do you want to just go into, you also sent us an email on our, looking for it, on our Brownfield accounts, our 3 accounts that we have?
Yes, I just wanted to send that to you. I noticed it had been a while since I sent you those statements from the bank. So there's one from the checking account, one from what we had as the EPA grants, and basically we were required to keep those grant dollars in a separate account. That one has just over $1,000 in it. We're not getting any charges on it, but that could be closed out and the money moved into a checking account. Or we could leave it alone and see if we receive any additional grants in the future that we would use that fund for. And then the third one is what we call the Leland escrow account. The Brownfield Authority incurred cost on that site in Leland. And after the sale of the property, the Brownfield Authority was reimbursed back for their cost. So it's over $100,000 that's sitting in that account yet. But I wanted you to keep in mind that we owe $100,000 to the county for 2 loans of $50,000 each over the years that we use for startup funds and then also for expenses on the Leland site. So at some point, we do need to start paying that loan back to the county. And with that account, I should also just state that we weren't taking any money out of there because the annual payment to Eagle was about $42,000 and we did not have enough TIF coming in to cover it. And we were liable for it if we didn't have enough TIF. With this modification to that loan, we now will have enough TIF coming in to make that annual payment, so that I think frees up that money in that Leland account if you want to start making any payments back to the county.
Any comments, questions on that report? T?
Yeah, is there, since there is no any interest being paid, 0.05%, is there a reason to hold on to those funds rather than paying off what's owed to the county at this time?
In the past, there was reason. I'm sorry, go ahead, Trudy.
Correct.
Just to reiterate what I had said, the reason that those funds were not used in the past is because we did not have enough TIF money coming in to pay the loan back to Eagle. And we didn't want to get into a situation where we had to go back to the county and ask for more funds because we're liable for paying that loan. So I think a cautious approach would be to start making some payments back to the county, keeping in mind we still have to have that TIF coming in to make that Eagle payment. And then there's another obligation yet on there is the payment back to Courthouse Redevelopment Group for the money that they put into the site. That would come out of TIF. And that is, if I remember correctly, I think it's around $38,000 that Courthouse Redevelopment Group is waiting for.
Correct. No, I understand that. But if you were to hold back, a couple of years of payments to the DEQ loan and to the other loan, is there any other use for that 100,000 other than just paying off the county loan?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. I didn't know if there was any other underlying obligations.
With the renegotiation of the Eagle loan, this is the first time that we have had this money that wasn't a safety net for something on the table. So this is the first time we really have felt, myself, that I can say that I felt comfortable considering letting go and, starting to pay back the county. I've always known it was out there, but we're finally in the position where we can, comfortably stand up on our own programs.
Does the county loan have an interest rate?
No. It's almost time for the new budget. Patricia, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I favor this more cautious approach too, rather than paying it off in lump sum. And I agree with you, T, that if we hold back several years worth of whatever that amount comes to, and maybe a little bit more, and then start to pay back the county so that we can be solvent over time. That would just be a little more cautious or comfortable than to put the entire amount and retire that debt, which would be lovely, but it would leave us with no backup.
So maybe in our new budget year, we can consider a, payment of 25,000 and hold on to 75,000 or something in which we might be comfortable.
Okay.
That's something to consider going forward or to discuss.
Definitely.
No other comments?
The difference that we have between the payments would be about $17,000. Well, maybe about, if we were to give,
The difference, I'm sorry, the difference between what payments is 17,000.
Rick,
What I
can you call the
subtracted.
mic closer to you, please?
The DQ payments, right? Yeah. It was,
I forgot what I subtracted here, but I was thinking we should be doing, as you suggested, about $25,000 a year. So we still had some buffer, but we're saving $17,000 a year.
17, correct.
To payments to Eagle.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
$1,000 down to $25,000 a year.
Yes, but if it, like he was saying, go ahead, Trudy.
I was just gonna ask, would you like me to work with the treasurer and come up with a couple different layouts that you can consider next month? And then that way he can kind of look at it and figure out a line item of, how the money's gonna come back in, and I could throw out a couple different scenarios of how this could get paid back for you to consider.
Yes, we can do that. Keeping in mind, we want to keep a couple of years worth of loan payments secure in that, and also what we might owe, the developer of the courthouse properties
Okay,
as a cushion, a safety cushion.
And other unexpected costs or needs for cash.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we can move on to, are there any other correspondence, communication items,
nope,
public comment? All right, director comments, anything else, Trudy?
nope, nothing else, thank you.
Any member comments?
Yes.
Dennis?
I only get the information about sweetbread and sugarloaf in the media. I'd like to know if Chad has any last minute 3 o'clock in the morning calls to give us any information.
That really is an issue between the township and Sweetbread. We are not involved with that. We have been consulting with the township officials, but that is a legal action that the township has to
Yeah.
take. Many people
Yeah, I
assume the
understand
county
that.
has greater
Yeah,
authority. A lot of people are assuming that the county can get involved and take legal action, but it has to be from the township. They have an
Well, I did hear
ordinance.
about Solon Township coming up with something, so that's okay then. I understand.
I do have one comment. One of our members, John Aarons, has not participated since February probably. I think when the COVID started, he said he would not be participating by Zoom or by calling in, but he is welcome to come here to the meetings, and maybe you should check with him through his status. It's been about 6 months since he's been here, and
I know.
he has not called in or Zoomed in at any of our meetings.
Patricia?
Well, yes, I just want to apologize for being tardy this morning. We had a little minor emergency at the house. And I also want to thank Jeff for his the work on creating the TIF tracking. That sounds very useful moving forward. And thank you for all that. Trudy, I'll catch up with you in terms of your comments that I missed at the beginning of the meeting.
I think we should almost give a round of applause to Trudy and whoever else was involved in getting the reduced payments to Eagle down to make it much more comfortable for us.
That's great.
Yes, yes.
I'd like to take credit and say it was very hardball negotiations, but it wasn't. It was a very congenial meeting where they encourage us to ask for everything that we could possibly ask for. And then almost gave us everything we could possibly ask for. So
It's wonderful.
Kathy, do you know why other groups have not taken advantage of this? You mentioned very few have taken advantage of the refinances. Why would that be the case?
they didn't know. Do you remember that comment, Trudy, in the meeting?
Yeah, we were the first one to respond. We responded right away.
That's just mind-boggling that they would not take advantage of this opportunity.
Or asleep.
Yeah.
Are,
It's still with Trudy Gallo working for them.
Yeah.
are many, our other clients that had similar loans we've negotiated too, so. There are a few others that have taken advantage of it.
Good.
Between Jeff and Trudy, that's the key, having them on the same team.
There you go. We have a good team.
That's right.
Any other comments? And we are ready to adjourn.
I had the wrong, you had the wrong email address, because I wasn't intentionally sliding you. I just thought you closed down for COVID.
Sometimes you can't assume the most obvious is we simply called you and asked you why you were participating. We had the wrong email by one letter.
Wow.
And so therefore, he was not getting any of the packets.
The post office would have figured it out, but the internet won't.
No. Well, it's good to have you back with us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, hearing no further business. And if there are no objections, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
You were babysitting, I believe.
Trudy,
Yes.
Yeah, that's what.
I can come in right now and sign checks if you want, if you can be there. I bet.
Okay, I gotta
No
get
one
them ready.
assumed the most
So
obvious.
they should be ready when you get here.
Okay, all
Let's just
right,
call it.
15, 20 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
You know, I'm in my 70s, and I have a history of chronic lung disease. So I looked like I felt like I still do feel like I'm target.
Sure, yeah.
Now,
So you were